Bonjour mes filles. Aujourd'hui, on va parler du futur simple. Futur simple. So futur, you know, is the future. It's a grammar tense. And simple, it means simple, but not in the sense that we think of simple and easy, although it is easy. Simple means that there's just one verb involved in this tense. So, as you see on these notes, these are attached to your haiku page, and they're also in your folder on our shared drive. The future simple is a tense that designates something that will or shall take place in the future. Its meaning differs slightly from the other future tense you know, which is the future proche, which means to going to verb. And for future proche, we use aller plus the infinitive. Okay? Just to remind you of what aller plus the infinitive looks like, I've given you a couple sentences. So, la première phrase, nous allons faire un pique-nique demain. We are going to take a picnic. We're going to have a picnic tomorrow. Nous allons faire. So, aller is conjugated, faire is in the infinitive. Tu vas être médecin. You're going to be a doctor. So again, aller is conjugated. You've got the verb to be is in the infinitive. And then the last one, ils ne vont pas décider jusqu'à la semaine prochaine. Right? They're not going to decide until next week. And so, futur proche means going to verb. Futur simple, this new tense we're working on, means will or shall verb. Now, as I have here, the futur simple, and I told you earlier, it's simple because you use one verb. So, in order to form it, we're going to start with our infinitive. That's going to be our élément de base, or la racine. In order to use the infinitive, it has to end in an R, which for ER verbs is simple. Obviously, it ends in an R. By its name, you know ER. It's going to end in an R. So the radical or stem, as I said, is the infinitive. And so I've given you the example jouer. Voilà. Okay, so we're going to start here with the pronouns je, tu, il, nous, vous. And we're going to put down the stem or radical, jouer, the infinitive. And to this, we're going to add the futur simple endings. The futur simple endings are essentially the avoir conjugations. Okay? So we're going to take that stem or radical, and we add the avoir endings, the avoir conjugations. For je, that ending will be ai. For tu, as. Il, elle, and on, a. For nous and vous, it's slightly different. Avant and avait, too long. So the French just use the last couple of letters. ONS for nous, EZ for vous, and then for il pluriel, that is the avoir conjugation as well. So when we look at it, here's our radical, and we added that avoir ending. Je jouerai, tu joueras, il jouera, elle jouera, on jouera. Nous jouerons, vous jouerez, ils joueront. If we move on to an IR verb, we're going to approach it the same way. Finir, infinitive. It ends in an R. We have to make sure that's the case. It ends in an R. So we put down our radical, our stem, and then again add those avoir endings. Je finirai, tu finiras, il finira, nous finirons, vous finirez, ils finiront. For RE verbs, we're going to approach it the same way, but as I said earlier, the radical, or the élément de base, that stem has to end in an R. We know that REs don't end in an R, so to make it in an R, we're just going to take off that last E. We're going to just eliminate that little part right there. So, our stem is going for the verb vendre. We take off this E, as you see, je vendre, and then I add the avoir endings. Je vendrai, tu vendras, il vendra, nous vendrons, vous vendrez, ils vendront. And happily, these rules hold true for pretty much every verb, including irregular verbs. So, if we look down here to some samples I gave you, dire, lire, écrire, connaître, éteindre, craindre, these all are irregular verbs. But in order to form the future simple, you've got your stem here by just taking off that last E. Okay? And here I've given you what those are going to look like, the stem before you add your endings. Okay? And then I conjugated a few of them for you to see. J'écrirai, tu écriras, il ira, nous étendrons, etc. Okay, so that's the regular. Those will encompass all the regular verbs in the future simple. And by regular, I mean ones that follow the rule. You take the infinitive. If it ends in an R, if it doesn't end in an R, take off that last E and add those avoir conjugations. As is always the case, there are a few exceptions. Okay, and those I call the suspects d'habitude, right? The usual suspects. And I've given them for you here. Avoir has a specific one. Or, savoir is sort, devoir is devre. Okay, you're going to notice that all these ones that end in OIR are going to have sort of a similar look to them. Or, sort, devre, faudre. It looks funny to have that VR or the DR, but it's correct. Okay, so avoir is or, savoir is sort, devoir is devre. Il faut, remember this only has one conjugation. So faudra is what it is. Il faudra is the only way you'll use that. Pleuvoir, to rain, same thing. It's only going to be used with il. Here's your conjugation. Then here we're finishing out our OIRs. Recevoir, apercevoir, vouloir. For faire, aller, s'asseoir, and être, they're a little more irregular. Faire is faire, and it sounds like that sound. Faire, ir. S'asseoir, you've got two choices. You can either do s'assier or s'asseoir. Être is ser. For the tenir, obtenir verbs, again, look, you're going to see a pattern. Tiendre, obtiendre, viendre, deviendre, reviendre. And then the last five are a little funky because we're going to double R's. For courir, pouvoir, voir, envoyer, and mourir. Cour, pour, ver, envers, et mour. But like we did above, we're going to use the same endings. Je serai à l'heure. Tu seras en Égypte. Elle sera présidente des États-Unis. Okay, so there you've got several conjugations with être. Ira-t-elle en Espagne here? Okay, we've got aller plus aller in the future simple. Est-ce que tu m'enverras ces documents? Nous reviendrons tard la semaine prochaine. The good news about this is these irregulars, pretty much that's all there is. Okay, so most verbs follow the regular pattern. If the infinitive ends in an R, that's your stem. If it doesn't, you take off the E, unless it's one of these listed here. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you soon.